I welcome you. Tonight, the school board is sitting in the audience. This meeting will be run by state law and rules, Robert's rules. For each article in the warning, we'll need a motion and a second. And each time that you need to make a motion or second or a comment, I'd ask you to stand up and state your name so Rose, our clerk, can record the minutes. So, with that, I call the meeting to order of the Addison Northwest School District. The legal voters of Addison Northwest School District are hereby notified and warned to meet at 6 p.m. on Monday, February 26, 2018, at the Virgins Union High School for a public information meeting on the proposed 2018-19 budget and to transact the following businesses. Article 1, to hear and act upon the reports the Addison Northwest School District officers. Article 2, to establish salaries for the directors and other elected officers of the Addison Northwest School District pursuant Vermont Statutes 562. To authorize the Board of Directors to give notice that in lieu of distributing the school district annual report by mail within 10 days of the district's annual meeting, it shall give at least 30 days notice of the availability of such report by inclusion in the warning of the district's annual meeting, commencing with the district's 2018 annual meeting. Article 4, shall the voters of Addison Northwest School District approve the exchange of parcels of land with the town of Addison in accordance with the terms of April 19, 2017 land exchange agreement between the town of Addison and the Addison School District. Article 5, to transact any other business proper to come before said meeting. The meeting will be recessed until Tuesday, March 6, 2018, for the purpose of voting by Australian ballot on the remaining articles at the following locations: Addison from 7 to 7, Ferrisburg from 7 to 7, Panton from 9 to 7, Virgins from 9 to 7, and Waltham from 10 to 7. Dated in Virgins, Vermont, this 22nd day of January 2018. Addison Northwest School District Board of Directors, Susan Rutkowski, Chair. Do I have a motion on Article 1? Could you stand up and speak?
Sorry, Lori Jones. Someone, thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second. Mark Koenig.
Is that Rose?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes, Lori.
Thank you. This has been confusing to me. We're adopting these reports, but we don't ask questions about them until the budget information meeting. Is that a correct statement? Or can we ask questions about the annual report right now?
You may.
I may. All right. Hang on. So, since 2016, our technology costs are up 74% since 2016. And I'm wondering why, and that we are, how we're doing on our technology plan. Is this like the last year that we're going to have that kind of a line item? I think it was 534,000. So that's my question.
Is there anyone who wishes to respond to that? I have to remind you that only voters in the district are allowed to speak or vote. I will make an exception to that for any school administrator that is present as far as speaking. Would you like to say something, Joanne?
I would like to start and then,
I'm also willing to wait till the budgetary meeting, right?
Yeah.
I just was asking the question because I don't understand completely the relationship between adopting the reports before we even talk about them and then talking about the reports after we've adopted them. Just
Well,
seems
this
a little weird to
This
me.
article, as far as I understand it, is to hear the reports and then to act either to accept them or not to accept them.
So the hearing, excuse me, I believe we're talking about the annual report, are we not? Is that the report we're adopting, we're approving?
Yes. Joanne?
Listen, you don't mind, is it okay?
Yes.
I mean, if no one else has any questions, if everybody wants to wait to the budget and just adopt this, I'm happy to wait to the budget information meeting. Does anybody else have a problem with that? Or want to ask more questions?
I think it would be useful to answer now, because then it'll be in the minutes of the meeting, and so
That's
if there are
true.
questions, it'll be in the minutes of the meeting for next year. Sorry, Tom Borchert, Waltham.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Joanne, do you wish to?
yes,
can I
I'd
make
like Elizabeth and myself to be able to speak. So based on what I remember in terms of your question, Laurie, we consolidated all of the technology from each of the 5 entities into one budget, so it looks like it became a larger number. It actually reflects telecommunication and not just the computers that we have been purchasing. We've also had to take some of the computers that were coded in each individual department and include that in the 2580 as well. So we consolidated a lot of that telecommunication, including computers. We do not, going forward, expect that the budget will be that high because we are planning to establish this year a 3-year cycle, which we will be able to do better planning around replacing our computers. And right now, we've had cycles, but they've been individually based, individual school based, and now we have a district database that we're going to be using to determine how we're going to be replacing. And then the third point I want to make is we're moving towards a consistent platform. So for the students, we're purchasing Chromebooks, and for the desktops, we will be purchasing Dell computers, which will allow us more expedited way to annually update those programs. And not to spend the amount of time that we have, because we've had different types of platforms. Elizabeth, you want to add to that?
The only thing I could elaborate on that is just to reiterate that your first level of consolidation happened in year 1, which is the current year that we're in. But even in the current year we started discovering that there were items in your budget that were still kind of distributed outside of the 2580 technology function code. They were based on departments. You know, if a department was getting a computer or software, they were still kind of out there in those various places in the budget. So we honed in on that consolidation a little further and pulled all of those costs out of those other areas and put them into the technology, so that technology is now all of technology, including the telephones, the internet, that service, which was out in another department before.
Okay, so is it all right?
Yes.
Can I keep going? So as far as the technology plan is concerned, I'm remembering from being on the high school board, we had a $55,000 budget line item in 14 or 15, to make all our students have a Chromebook or a piece of computer, a computer that works. And I was just wondering how that equity piece is going?
Mm-hmm. I think I'd rather have the technology director, Bob Owens, also participate in this discussion, and he's the one who oversees the development of our tech plan that is, I believe it is retiring after this year, Bob? And we will be needing to develop another 3 to 5 year plan.
Yeah, actually, just in terms of the technology plan is no longer a requirement by the federal government or by the state government. The goal with the state is to have the technology plans rolled into things like action plans for each of the schools. We are planning on having that done this summer for a new plan, which would be another 3-year plan. But it will not be a technology plan per se. It'll just be a facet of another thing like the school action plans. As far as the one-to-one initiative, we're almost there, grades 3 through 12. We still have a few more systems to purchase at the higher grades and the lower grades. And I think that we will be there next year.
Is that included in the budget, those costs?
Yes, yes. We are already starting to replace Chromebooks. That the initial batch of Chromebooks that we purchased for the high school was purchased on a 3-year lease. And we're already starting to replace those. It's over 300 units that will be replaced for next year.
Why? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it was on a
I
3-year.
mean, I have a computer that's 15 years old.
Well, it was on a 3-year lease.
Oh, so we have to, right?
Right.
Of course, that makes sense.
And so the way that the lease was written is that we would turn them in after 3 years.
Okay. And
and-
are we buying or releasing again, do you know?
We're not leasing any longer. The idea behind the lease was to make sure that we didn't have a huge, as big of an outlay of funding every year, and to see how they worked for us, because it was really the first time that we were buying so many machines and putting them directly in the hands of the kids. But it's been working quite well all across the district, and so we're expanding on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this was part of the plan to, when we unified, is to be able to provide more consistent and high-quality athletic and extracurricular programs for all of our students. So we now have a program that serves, we will have a program that serves students in grades 3 through 12. And we took some of the line items from the individual school budgets and consolidated that in order to create a grades 3 through 12 extracurricular and athletic program. We have Pete Manine here, who's our athletic director, who's also a resident of Ferrisburg. So I would invite him to add to that explanation if you want.
No, the only thing, it's actually K through 12. We're going to be consolidating, and also with that offering some other opportunities, and with those offerings sometimes comes an increase in other things lead to it. The officials' costs have gone up. Those are things that we don't have control over. Those are state costs. So we got to budget for that somewhere.
Okay, so as far as this consolidation is concerned, I'm looking at the 17-18 budget proposal from the annual report from last year, and the extracurricular programs are all consolidated. So I took these numbers and I compared it to our current numbers, and there's still a 7% increase over since 2016. And so consolidating was already happening, at least in the numbers, last year.
Yes.
So I'm Matt DeBloy from Ferrisburg, and I work in Bluegrass. Pete and I worked on this proposal to the administration, and there are some things that were not covered in the historical budget that have been part of some things, and I think this may have actually occurred at a prior meeting, whereas kids who participate in the Virgins program have traditionally been bus places, and that has not been the case for both Addison or Ferrisburg. And there are some programs that have been run as a rec program, Ferrisburg soccer, for example, that has traditionally not been part of the school budget. So the VPA, the governing body of athletics, recommends that we, if we're doing off-site events, that we transport the kids there. Safe statement.
Yeah, liability aspect.
It's really hard for me to handle that we're cutting Addison and Ferrisburg principals 20%, and we're cutting our secretaries 20%, and extracurricular is getting an increase. Doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
I think the other thing we got to keep in mind too, we're a district that has no rec department for our kids. If we don't offer activities and opportunities for our kids through the schools, we don't have those opportunities.
I'm not suggesting that I'm sure there are some ways that that budget could be cut. You know, uniforms, for instance, in the high school. My sister said that her daughter has a closet full of uniforms that she will never wear again, never.
But, you know, in a lot of cases, so my son also has 4 or 5 jackets. Those are not part of the athletic budget. They,
Boosters that do?
the boosters do that in part, the coaches sometimes do that.
Or kids
And
fundraise by
the
the
kids
jackets.
fundraise and we pay for them. So when they have athletic stuff, when they have uniforms, Pete and the coaches spend an awful lot of time getting us to get those uniforms back. Uniforms cost an awful lot, but I don't.
I am talking about the jackets and the
Yeah.
sweatpants and.
Yeah, our booster club gives teams money every year. They find it important for our kids to be proud of representing our community and our programs,
Yes.
and they give them money to every team to go out and buy a sweatshirt where they can be walking down the street. People can recognize that they're out representing our community, and they're, you know, some of our top students, and those are their own items. Yes, I'm sure your sister is not alone with many kids in our community who have a closet full of their Jen's athletic, you know, memorabilia from their time, you know, representing our school and our community.
Sure. So are you saying that those things are not in this budget? Taxpayers are not paying for that kind of thing?
Correct. Yep,
Thank you.
warm-ups and personal items are not in there. Uniforms are included in there, and those are on, you know, a cycle. Some can last longer than others. You know, I'm resorting to, we just had, you know, teams end their season on Saturday, standing outside the locker room with a garbage bag, collecting sweaty, used uniforms that I personally wash and fold and inventory and put away, so that way those uniforms can last a whole lot longer, because things no longer, you know, things aren't cheap, and, you know, companies are smart. They only make uniforms for every couple of years. You lose more than a couple of those, they don't get returned. You can't just replace one or two uniforms. You have to replace an entire set. They want your money.
Okay.
Tara Brooks for Jens. I'm going to just add that, you know, this doesn't actually reflect what we spend on our athletic department. I mean, like Pete said, much of our athletic budget actually comes from fundraising, the Boosters Club. If we were to fully fund the athletic department the way it's actually being run, we would be adding a lot more than just this. We're lucky to live in a community that supports our athletic department the way it does, because we would not be able to fund it out of our budget to the level it's funded without the community. So just because it's a small percent increase, we have to look at, that's really not as big as it could be if we didn't have organizations like the Boosters Club and the gentleman that owns City Limits and places like that that give thousands of dollars back to our athletic department.
Yes, and then we would have had to have cut the principals to 40%.
Right.
Christina Macklin, I'm a resident of Ferrisburg. I also just want to reiterate or point out that this particular program, or the extracurricular, is going to create more opportunities for our students, new opportunities across the board for all our schools. And I just don't want us to lose sight of that either, because that's what it's all about, creating new opportunities and more opportunities for each of our students in all the schools.
Yes, sir.
Is this the right place to ask a question about the bond? Alden Harwood from Madison. Is this the place to ask a question about the bond, or no?
It's not on this.
It's not on here. It's in the report.
It's in the
Yeah, all right, so
report,
it's-
that's why.
Right.
You may ask a question.
Okay, so, my question is, what caught my eye was the statement that there was a guaranteed savings in energy of $212,000.
What page you on, Alden?
I am on page 34.
Thank you.
And it was also in the flyer that came to my house. So I'm just curious, the word guaranteed kind of caught my interest, but I'm also wondering what percentage of the total energy budget that $212,000 is? And what form, I was wondering if actually that document that says it guarantees those savings was available.
My name is Tom Borchard again. I'm the chairman of the facilities committee, so I was one of the people that was responsible for putting the plan together. I'm gonna ask Elizabeth to answer the question about the money, but you know, where the energy, how the energy is allocated across the 4 schools. But it's the type of project that we're doing, an energy performance contract project. The company that we chose through a competitive bid to manage it, does an audit of the schools, and they offer suggestions about how they can adjust the energy system and the light usage and the heating, et cetera. Part of the thing is that they guarantee the energy savings. So if we do what we've set up the systems and they tell us how to run it, right? This is the proper way to maintain the system. Then they will guarantee that the amount of money that we spend on energy across the district is $212,000 less than we have currently budgeted, than we had budgeted for last year.
So if we don't.
I guess this year,
So if we don't see those savings, then they reimburse us?
Yes.
Okay, and all the work that's proposed in the bond was all put out to bid?
We chose them, they do that process. It's not, they're not, so they're gonna, parts of that will go out to bid, parts of that will work with their partners, all of whom are in Vermont.
Okay, but under bid law, doesn't anything over 15,000 have to be bid?
I'm not going, I don't know enough about bid law to answer that, so I'm not gonna try to answer that.
All right, so I'm just wondering, you say 212,000, what were the other companies, what were their predicted savings? Or guaranteed savings?
They didn't get that far. In the competitive, in the process, you had we chose one company after they submitted general proposals.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I can't name, I would be happy to get back to you. It's been over a year now, so I really forget the name of the other companies, but we chose EEI amongst 3.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the number, to be honest with you. That is, in my district, more than half of our total energy budget, and I oversee 6 schools. So for you to say that much money would be guaranteed in 4 schools, I'd like to see it, because I think I'm missing something.
We did do a quick comparison, and I don't have it with me, but I could send that to you after the fact, or we could put it on the website or something. It was in an email correspondence, probably with Tom, about how much the actual current costs were and how much this percentage was. It is pretty substantial
I'm sure
compared
it
to the
is,
overall
knowing
energy budget.
Knowing the current
Yep.
infrastructure, but I'm also
Yep.
just curious to make sure before I vote on this $7 million bond that you have followed all the tenets of bid law in the process, and that you're not just signing a contract after the bond money is voted with one company.
Yep, so they went out to bid, like Joanne said, about a year ago, but it was for the entire project to secure a company that was going to take on the project on their behalf.
For performance
For
management.
performance management contract. So that company, we did our bid process, picked that company, and now they go out and bid to the various vendors to find each individual piece of that contract and then propose that to us.
Okay. So voting, if we vote for the bond, that doesn't necessarily at this point
Guarantee who's
assure
doing the
that-
work.
Yeah, the process still needs to be vetted.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
The second link on the website has all the calculations they use for the energy costs.
Oh,
So
okay.
you could do it such a.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Kilowatt hours and the rate that they use, and the rate that they use,
Right.
so you could do the math.
Okay, thanks, I'll look
Yep.
at that.
George?
George Gardner, Ferrisburg. Part of this too is not just the efficiency, but the fact that we're proposing to put solar on the roof.
Right.
So we're gonna get a reduction in our energy cost because of that, in addition to the energy saving improvements that we're doing on the inside.
Right, no, I understand, but $212,000 is a lot of money to predict to save, and that it's gonna take a lot more than solar to do that. So I'm just curious what the, but I'll look at the website and see what those numbers are.
Any further questions, just let us know and we'll answer those for
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Yes, sir.
Greg Berenger from Canton. Just to follow up on the bond, how long is that bond?
20 years.
Okay. And then a different question on the expenditures, just understanding. There's a whole line, a bunch of line items under direct instruction on page 38. And there's a bunch of these that go from a large value in 2016 to 0 and then back up. Could you explain what happened there?
So I just started for this district on July 1st of this year, and what we discovered is in the consolidation process, when they consolidated from the 5 entities into one, they did consolidate all of their direct service instruction, especially namely at the high school. They consolidated them all into one line after the fiscal year 17. So as you can see in FY18, that column, the large number is up just under 1,100. So they kind of took all those individualized departments and function codes and put them all into 1,100. In the current year, we're discovering that that makes the administration and the staff's job at the high school quite difficult in being able to track their expenditures and not having them split out by department, such as science, math, social studies, any of those various departments. So we decided that it would behoove us to at least break back out the more discretionary items like textbooks, supplies, and things like that to make their job easier and be able to track those expenses. So that's why you see the zeros in FY18, and then smaller dollar amounts than FY17, but still more of a breakout in FY19, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Charles Kelly, Addison. It just was mentioned that the solar is going to go on the roof. And if, the numbers I see is solar is good for about 20, 25 years before there has to be some replacement. How good is the roof? I know we've had problems in the past here with the roof. Is it going to last 25 years for the life of the solar? Or is it going to solar going to have to be removed, roof fixed again, and then put back, solar put back again?
Ken, did you hear the question?
I did. Welcome. I was listening. So, we have looked at the roof, and we're still looking at it. That roof is about 3 years old. It has about 20 years plus. So it is close to life expectancy for both the panels and the roof.
So it's a tie?
It's a tie. Unless we enhance the roof a little bit, potentially, before putting the panels on, by making it solar ready.
Will it void the warranty on the roof?
There is no warranty on the roof.
You got 3
I wasn't here then.
No warranty.
I wasn't here then, that's correct.
Wow.
We're trying to avoid those problems.
We are. Yep. And we'll get there for sure. We'll make sure that if these panels go on there, that roof will be solar ready, which is the key. And the technical part of that is that something's laid down on top of the rubber prior to the panels going on, or the ballast that hold the panels on. So we're very concerned about that before it happens. We're only going to use strategic areas of the roof that are ready for that. We're capable, low shading areas, and of course, we're going to fix anything that needs to be fixed before they go on the roof.
Okay. One follow-up question. Is there a fire suppression system going in with the solar? As you probably know, last year, UVM at one of their buildings had a fire due to solar on the roof, and they lost quite a bit of their antiquity collections or, I don't know, rare books on the third floor of one of their buildings. And I believe the fire was due to solar on the roof. So is there a fire suppression system or some safety with that?
I'm not aware of that situation at UVM. I am aware of a situation where there was some torches that started a fire on a roof at UVM from a metal roofing company. But I'm not aware of the solar, and so I will look into what happened at UVM, and then we can run it across EEI to make sure that that's the performance contractor. You know, that if that's required, then we'll put it in there or look into it. But I'm not sure that it is required based on the conversation I had with the other school districts that have put solar on the roofs. So I haven't heard that one yet, but it's a good question.
I'm just going by what I heard on, I think it was WCA.
I know there was, I actually know the roofing company that dealt with that, and I was told that that was a torch doing flashing, heated up some old timber, and that's what started the fire. That's what I was told. We can definitely follow up.
Any other questions or discussions? Not, will someone ask to move the article? Article 1, to hear and act upon the reports of the Addison Northwest School District officers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Article 2, to establish salaries for the directors and other elected officers of the Addison Northwest School District pursuant to 16 Vermont Statutes 562. Do I have a motion? Rose?
Make a motion to, let's see, I think their salary is $800 currently, to leave their salary at $800 for the following school year.
Do I have a second? Tom? It's been moved to keep the salaries at $800 for the Addison school directors. I believe they also have salaries for the clerk. Joanne?
The amount is wrong.
The
Oh.
current salary is actually $850.
$850, that's.
Okay.
Okay, that's not what was voted on.
Would you like to amend your motion, Rose?
Yes, because I said to keep it at what it was this year, so if it's currently $850, then keep it at $850.
I believe we also have salaries for the clerk and treasurer. And what are those, Joanne?
$150 for the clerk and $3,000 for the treasurer.
The way I hear, we have a motion to leave the salaries for the directors at $850 and the clerk at $150 and the treasurer at $3,000. Any discussion? George?
George Gardner, Ferrisburg. I would like to amend the motion to increase the salary for the chairperson. The chairperson puts in a tremendous amount of extra time, and I believe should have a greater remuneration. would suggest that that be 50% above the rest of the members of the board.
George has made a motion to amend the motion to increase the salary of the chairman to 50% more than those of the regular officers. Is there a second on George's amendment?
I'll second that.
The motion has been made to second, amend the original motion to increase the salary for the chairman by 50% of those of the other school directors. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The amendment has passed. Any other discussion on the salaries? If not, then the motion is to establish the salaries of the directors at $850 and the clerk at $150 and the treasurer at $3,000 and the chairman at 50% more than the directors. Yes, Lori.
May I suggest you use chair rather than chairman?
I'm sorry.
I-
Chairperson.
Our chair is a woman?
Chairperson.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Yes.
Old traditions are hard to
I know.
die.
I decided I was going to say it because it's time to change, right?
Yeah.
Right? Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion has passed. Article 3, to authorize the Board of Directors to give notice that in lieu of distributing the school district's annual report by mail within 10 days of the district's annual meeting, it shall give at least 30 days' notice of the availability of such report by inclusion in the warning of the district's annual meeting, commencing with the district's 2018 annual meeting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Tom? Any discussion? None? It has been moved to authorize the Board of Directors to give notice that in lieu of distributing the school district annual report by mail within 10 days of the district's annual meeting, it shall give at least 30 days' notice of the availability of such report by inclusion in the warning of the district's annual meeting, commencing with the district's 2018 annual meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion is passed. Article 4. Shall the voters of Addison Northwest School District approve the exchange of parcels of land with the town of Addison in accordance with the terms of the April 19th, 2017 land exchange agreement between the town of Addison and the Addison School District? Do I have a motion? Tom?
Who's saying that?
And
You need to say your name, I'm sorry.
John Spencer.
Tom again?
Yeah.
And who's the second?
Any discussion?
Who was the second?
John Spencer.
Oh, thank you.
One of the few people in the room I know.
You know him, huh?
Is there any discussion?
Could someone explain what this is? Me?
Yeah.
John?
Thank you.
If you're aware of the property around the Addison Town Hall, the school owns a strip of property where the school buses are now parked. It separates the Addison Town Hall from the town property where the town of Burke is now. So therefore, we cannot subdivide the town hall off from the church property and combine it with the town property because the property is not contiguous. So also knowing that the town owns the parking lot right in front of the school, including the sidewalk, we are swapping equal pieces of property to rearrange that. And that's what it's all about. And the town is assuming the costs of changing the lot and the school bus parking area. So it's no cost to the school district at all.
Any other questions? Not, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passed. Article 5, to transact any other business proper to come before said meeting. Okay.
Sorry.
Anyone have something they'd like to bring up?
They're just celebrating back here because it's been a long time. That land swap has been a long, long, long time coming. Long, long, long. Should I say that again?
Well, as I said before, Lori, some things are slow to change.
Yeah, and that was, and so we're celebrating now that it's done. Thank you.
If not, I will ask for a motion to recess until March 16th, 2018, for the purpose of voting by the Australian ballot on the remaining articles at the following locations. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Well, that's George and
Mark.
And Mark.
again. Okay, thanks.
All those in favor, say aye. I thank you. There will be a special meeting in April. What, Joanne, what date is it?
There'll be a special meeting planned for April. Date has not been decided yet.
Okay. Immediately following this, the school board is going to have a budget meeting. So you're all invited to stay and join the fun. Thank you.